All right, I want to move on to tariffs real quick. You mentioned the impact they're having. What impact are? I mean, the left loves to say that Trump's tariffs are ruining the economy and all sorts of disruption. We're paying more. What impact are tariffs having on our economy?
I'm not a big fan of Trump's tariffs. Every time I see the president, the first thing is that there's Steve Moore. He's a great economist, but he doesn't like my tariffs. I know, Mr. President, I don't like your tariffs. But then I always say to him, yeah, Mr. President, I'm not a big fan of tariffs because tariffs are taxes. But there's a big but here. I love the trade deals, Sean. Don't
Yes.
you? I mean, they're
Oh my.
amazing.
Well,
I
how
mean,
do you get people to pay us attention if we're getting 100% tariff and we're getting zero? Why
exactly.
would they? So if you don't do something at some point, so that's what I don't necessarily like tariffs, but I realize you can't complain about the imbalance if you're not willing to do something about it.
It's a bargaining tool, and you know Donald Trump much better than I do. I know him a bit. You know him very well, but the guy he's the best negotiator I've ever met in my life. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but
I would. Yeah.
yeah. And so he told me a story when I think forget what country it was, Korea or Japan, and he just walked in the room with the prime minister, and he just said, we're thinking of raising our tariffs on you by 50 to 100%. Like, whatever you want, Mr. President. That got their attention, and all of a sudden he got all these concessions. That is the art of the deal, isn't it?
So what we've got this revenue coming in, to your point, hundreds of billions of dollars, definitely, the Treasury saying, what should we do with that? Deficit reduction. He's talked about aid to farmers. What should he do with it?
Well, we should. I like his idea of let's get rid of the income tax, and we could do this. We could, if we were to.
Wait, hold on, Seymour. You just said I don't like tariffs, and now you trade them for the income tax?
Yeah, no. Look, I mean, I don't like tariffs on top of the income tax, but
Ah,
if we could replace our entire, can you imagine what would happen in the American economy if we didn't have an income tax? I mean, my God, we would be like Jesse Owens just flying down the track. And so Trump has this grand vision. I think he's serious about it too, and I think it could be done. You could have a consumption tax system. We wouldn't tax our corporations. We wouldn't tax our workers. I mean, we would see the biggest explosion of growth. Now, I don't think that's probably going to happen, but we could use the tariff revenue, Sean, to reduce our income taxes. You were there in his first term, in his first year, when we passed the first version of the Trump tax cut. And remember, we cut the corporate tax rate from 35 to 21%. And what happened? All of this money flowed into the United States as we became more competitive internationally. I think Trump is a strategic thinker, and that I've been thinking a lot about this. I mean, what makes him so? I've worked for Reagan, I worked for Bush, I've seen all these presidents. Trump is a businessman. He thinks like a businessman, and he's thinking like he's running USA Inc. And all of the things he's doing are trying to make America more profitable, more efficient, more effective and competitive. And we're in a great shape. We're the only country right now among the developed countries that's really growing very fast. China's not growing. Japan's not growing. Europe is flatlined. And so it's almost like Trump is showing the rest of the world, here's how you do it. Incidentally, did you see what happened in Chile, where the Chileans just elected a Donald Trump type
yeah.
candidate? It's happening all over. My prediction, Sean, is that in the next 3 or 4 years, you're going to see a Trumpian revolution all over the world because people are sick and tired of arrogant, out of touch, and selfish politicians who are doing what's good for them, not the people who elected them.
It's funny. There's so many things that don't get attention, Steve. Like exactly the way you describe the economy, right? You hear the media talk about it. It's doom and gloom. Everybody's, scraping pennies to get by. One of the things that Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, said this weekend that has gone so unnoticed, when we passed a big, beautiful bill, it was nothing was good of would ever come of it. And he said, oh, by the way, I wanted to just let you know that our deficit will be 600 billion down,
Yeah.
right? And I think Kevin Hassett also echoed that as well. Like, from your standpoint, from an economist, how big of a deal is that on the economy, economic growth, when we're talking about really lowering the deficit writ large?
I've always said that, the best way to reduce the budget deficit, I'm sounding like Art Laffer right now.
That's a good guy to sound like.
There you
Good
go.
guy.
Is to grow the economy. Grow it, grow. When people have jobs, when companies are profitable, when small businesses are being formed, guess what? They start paying they start paying taxes, and so this is what happened under Reagan. We had the big 7-year boom. I think we could see a 7-year boom in the economy over the next years to come, like we saw under Reagan. And it's so interesting to me because you've been in the Oval Office much more than I have with Trump. But when I'm with him, he's always talking about Reagan, and he wants to be even greater than Reagan. I said, well, Mr. President, that's a good ambition to have, but he's on the course to. And you may have seen Laffer was widely quoted this week as saying he thinks that Trump can be the greatest economic president of our lifetime, and he's well on that course.
All right, guys, fall's upon us. That means if you want to have a luxurious night's sleep, do what I do. Switch your sheets over to Boll Branch. It's like staying in the nicest hotel you've ever stayed in your life. I feel like I close my eyes. I'm like, am I in the really nice hotel I stayed in once? But you can do that at home every night. Here's the kicker. To get Boll Branch sheets, you have to use my URL, Boll and Branch, BOLLAND branch.com/Spicer. You got to use it exactly like that. BollandBranch.com/Spicer for 25% off and unlock free shipping on your first order. Some exclusions apply. One of the big things on that sort of economic course that's going to decide whether or not we cut rates or whatever is who the next Fed chairman is. And obviously, according to reports, you got Kevin Warsh, Kevin Hassett, and Waller. Do you have an opinion of who would be the best person?
I love the two Kevins. I love Kevin Warsh and I love Kevin Hassett. And, it's like asking me, would I rather have a Ferrari or a Lamborghini? I mean, I love them both. And so I really want one of the Kevin Hassett or Kevin, I'm blanking on his name.
Warsh or Hassett, right?
Kevin Warsh.
But it seems like that there's definitely a little bit of an attack strategy going on to take down Kevin Hassett right now, at least in some of the Beltway press, that they seem to be going after him. I don't know where that's coming from, but there seems to be a school of thought that he's not the right guy.
Well, one thing that's for sure, Sean, and when I meet with the president, he brings this up all the time. It's like he'll say, Steve, one of my biggest mistakes was Jerome Powell, right? And I said, yes, Mr. President, that was a mistake. And so I feel confident that the reason it's taking him a long time to make this decision is he doesn't want to screw this one up, because one of the few wrong things that, and by the way, I think Jerome Powell has been a total disaster as Fed chairman. He's the one who allowed the inflation to go up by 9%. He's the one who raised rates. And you were there, Sean, in the first term, the economy was just ready to boom, and he's raising rates, and he took a lot of the steam out of the economy in that first term, even though we did grow like crazy. And so Jerome Powell has to go, and I want that person who comes. I think it will be. I think 90% chance it's going to be one of the two Kevins. They not only have to deal with the interest rate issues, they have 300 PhD economists over there. What do they do?
Maybe some more Doge cuts there, huh?
Yeah. And by the way, I loved it when Trump, you saw when he went over to the Federal Reserve Board, they're spending, what is it, $1.8 billion to rebuild it. And Trump goes in there and he goes, I'm an old construction guy. I could have done it for about 1/3 the cost.
You said Powell has to go. Assuming the court gives him the power to fire Lisa Cook, should he fire him or let him wait out his term till May 26?
I would, well, that's a tough one for me. I mean, I don't know the legality of this, so I'm not a lawyer.
Just say that he can. Assuming he can.
I guess I'd let him serve out his term, because I think that's what Wall Street wants. I don't want to see any kind of disruption. I don't think he can do too much damage in his last 4 months, especially once he's named his successor, which I guess is going to come any day now. So
we'll see. But should when they cut rates in December by 25 basis points, there's now like at least mixed signals on people who read the Fed that might be the last one. And you talk about damage in the next 4 months. Should the Fed continue to cut?
I think the most important thing for the Fed to do is to defend the dollar. We are so benefited as a nation that we are the world reserve currency. And that is a gigantic advantage over China, over Russia, over the Europeans, et cetera. And China wants to they want the yuan to become the world reserve currency. We need to defend the dollar, keep it stable, keep it strong. I'm going to sound like Steve Forbes right now. And I do think that Wall Street obsesses too much about, and personally, I think the president obsesses too much about whether the Fed cuts rates or whatnot, because the Fed only controls the short-term rates. So the Fed does not control the mortgage rate. The Fed does not control the 10-year Treasury bill. The interest rates are set by the market. And what Trump is doing the reason, Sean, the people like myself and Larry Kudlow and Art Laffer and Steve Forbes and Donald Trump are called supply-siders is we believe the solution to problems like inflation is increase the productive capacity of our country, increase the supply. It's very simple. And I'm going to give you an economics quiz right now, Sean, and please don't get this one wrong. Okay, are you ready?
No, I got Steve, I got a D in college.
All right, let's see if
go.
You'll get an A if you get this one right. If the economy produces more apples, what happens to the price of apples?
They go down.
Yay! I knew you could do it, Sean. I knew you had confidence.
I wish you had
got an A, my friend. But you know what? Nobody at the Federal Reserve Board understands that.
All right. Well, I got two quick things I want to touch on. The first one is healthcare. There's 4 House Republicans sided with Democrats today to have a discharge petition to continue the ACA, the Obamacare subsidies. What is the right answer? Right now, it's a political hot potato. We're going to let them expire or we won't, or what we're going to do. And I feel like Republicans need someone like you to step in and say, cut it out. Here's the plan. Do this and execute it.
I like what Donald Trump has said. Let's, the people who are benefiting the most, the people who are walking away with all the money in the healthcare system are the health insurers. They're ripping us off. And, every additional dollar that the Democrats want to throw into the healthcare, juggernaut, 70 cents of that money, 70 cents of it goes into the profit and loss columns of the health insurers. So Trump is right. Let the money go to the people. Let the money go to the people and let them make their decisions. And let's stop enriching these corrupt health insurance companies.
So right now, there's, by whatever estimates, at least a few million people whose healthcare premiums who are on the exchange will go up December 30th if these COVID subsidies that Democrats passed without any Republican help expire. You're fine with allowing that to continue because
this is a complicated issue, but I will say this. Obamacare was called the Affordable Care Act. We've had it for 15 years, and they lied to us. And so it's not just these people. What about people like you and me? What about the people who are watching and listening to this podcast? Our insurance costs are going to go up by 12, 13, 14. I heard one guy 18% next year. What about us? We're getting crushed by the healthcare system that Barack Obama. We gotta start over, make it much more affordable. I believe that we could get better healthcare in this country at half the cost if we could get Obamacare repealed.
I agree, but the problem is that
I know.
The repeal part is easy. The replace part, everyone's up there. It's funny how I don't think it's that difficult because I think you're right. If we allow people choice, we give them a health savings account, and yet they all stand around and go, "Yeah, well, what should we do?" And we're like, "We just told you."
Yeah,
and I don't think they get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here to tell you that if you're concerned about our debt, if you're concerned about, by the way, we're spending more money than ever before on healthcare in this country, and yet the health outcomes are getting worse. So It's not working, Sean, and that's why Trump is right to figure out a new way to do this that empowers patients, empowers physicians, not the government, not the health insurance companies, because they are ripping us off blind.
All right. The last thing I want to ask you about is visas. This is a very complicated or divisive thing. A lot of folks in MAGA, not a fan of H-1B. There's another program that you've written extensively about. I know you did a study where you talked about this EB-5 program that allows or requires someone who wants to come into this country with a green card, so they're not a citizen, they have to invest in a U.S. project that creates a minimum of 10 jobs. There is some potential conflict with that and this gold card that Donald Trump or Howard Lutnick's rolling out. What should we keep in mind when we talk about which visa programs we need to keep, which ones we need to scrutinize?
Well, first of all, I do like that EB-5 program. It's been fantastic. And for people who aren't familiar with it, we call it the Investor Immigrant Program. That's somebody who wants to come in and invest hundreds of thousands of dollars or $1 million and build a new business. And oftentimes they have to be in, inner cities and areas that have been abandoned. And it's created a lot of jobs for Americans. You've got to create jobs with that investment, and you get a visa. So who would be against that? It's a really good program. It reduces our deficit. It provides jobs for Americans, et cetera. So let's continue with that. I love the gold card program, the gold, what do they call it? The gold visa. $1 million. If you will give the U.S. government $1 million, you get an expedited visa. Think about this. If we brought in 1 million people and each one paid $1 million, we'd reduce the budget deficit by $1 trillion. And these would be highly effective, highly talented and gifted people. So I guess the answer to the question is I think we should do both. We should go do the gold visa, and we should do these programs like the H-1Bs that bring in the brainiacs and the EB-5 program that brings in the investors. If we keep doing that, there's no country of the world that could possibly compete with the United States. It would be like an NFL football team that every year gets all the top 30 players. They get the first 30 draft picks. Who could possibly compete with that team? That's America today in the year 2025.
Are you concerned though, if you had to choose, if somebody's saying I got $1 million, I want a visa to come into America, I get $1 million, I get a visa, or $1 million that I have to invest in America, wouldn't I just stroke the first check?
Either way, I'm fine with either one.
Okay.
And so I like it, the investor program. I like the gold visa program. But let's get the best and the brightest in this country, and we will blow away the rest of the world. Look, there wouldn't be a Silicon Valley. We wouldn't have won the internet age where we have these 7 magnificent companies that have worth more than all of Europe combined. If it had not been for immigrants coming in, if 3 of the 7 companies that are the biggest companies in the world are here in the United States, they were founded by immigrants, for goodness sake. So the immigrants create far more jobs than they take.
All right. Steve Moore, I wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining us, and look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Well, thank you, Sean, and congratulations getting an A on your economics test this month.
Finally!
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.